Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm your host, the RPGgoddess Gamer. Now, today we're going to be talking about a series that I'm relatively new to. I've only played 4 games, but it's become quite near and dear to my heart and one of my new favourite series. And that series is called the Trail series, or it's otherwise known as the Legend of Heroes series. It's been around since, I believe, the 80s. Like I said, I've only played 4 games. Those games being Trails Gazer, Trails to Zero, um, Trails 3 Daybreak, and Trails in the Sky First Chapter. That's it. I've devoted quite a few hours, and I think I have good enough grasp on the situation of these games offered to provide you with little insight. So, a while back, I started a series called Games I Love and Why. This will be the second episode of that series, and we're going to be talking about this new review style format. So, let's begin. So, first off, I'd like to talk about the story. First off, I should preface by saying that the stories in these games are really big. It goes without saying that the story in any RPG is going to be big, but these are really big. These are the sort of games you're easily going to rack up 100 hours in my opinion, or at least that's what I've been racking up. The stories are really, really big, so you're going to get a lot of cutscenes and a lot of dialogue. I will say for some people this might be a little bit too much if you're not too fond of RPGs that have really, really story heavy focused elements, where there's lots and lots of talking. This might not be for you because even I have to now get a bit tired of just how many cutscenes there are. Personally, I think there's a slight balance. Like, these games are great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there should be a little bit more fighting and a little bit less talking. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, the stories are really good. Typical fantasy stories with a twist. The Trials games are very political. And they have a lot of world building. So you'll notice when you play certain games that you might play another game and find that there's a character from a previous game, or a mention of a place you've been to before, or an item you've heard of, and organisations you've heard of. So they are recurring things like that, which is really nice. So I appreciate the world building. But yeah, the stories are very political. There's all sorts of factions going on. Like you have Caillou, Armada, the CID, the Bracer Guild, Spriggans, and there's lots of factions. Personally, I'm not a big fan of politics. In terms of real world politics, I just don't really have an interest. I don't really follow it, and I probably should. That's just the way I am. So for a game that is so politically based in terms of the story, I will admit that does go over my head sometimes. Maybe just me not honestly being smart enough to take in exactly what's going on, but sometimes the story does go over my head. And a quick thing about it that I don't like is sometimes the game will go off on tangents. Like, here's an example. In Trails 3 Daybreak, the main character, Van Arkwright, who runs Arkwright Solutions, um, he has a love of sweets and cars. Now, the first time you hear him talk about sweets and cars, it's quite cute because, oh yeah, he likes these things. But it becomes this recurring joke that's literally not even funny when you go into towns and they'll start talking about food and be like, oh, there's a local cuisine, you should try it. It's made out of this and it smells like this and it tastes like this. And I'm thinking, do I really need to know all this? Like, yeah, food's nice, but I don't need to hear exactly what about it. I don't need to hear every time we get in the car or a car goes past about what make and model and things it is. Maybe I've just been picky with things like that. I just downgraded on my nerves a bit. But the stories are really good. Without getting too heavy into spoiler territory, although these are minor spoilers, so if you don't want to hear them, click away for a moment. Um, I'll give you an example. There's magic in this world, and the magic comes about through seven, which enemies drop, and it's called orbits. And they have electricity in the game, like that's based on these orbits. They call orbital power or orbital energy. Sorry. Um, And there are many cool things, like you find that there are trains in this game, there are airships, there are cars, there are motorbikes. Your characters have basically smartphones, there's an internet. So there's really cool things like that. And I noticed in both Trails of the Sky first chapter and Trails 3 Daybreak, there were these things, they call them the Genesis in Trails 3 Daybreak. And they're basically artifacts or objects created by um, Epstein, who is basically a genius. He's basically a technical wizard, technical genius in this world. And he created these things. There's not much known about them, but they have these mysterious, powerful abilities. And they're a similar sort of object in Trials in the Sniper chapter. And there are similar things in Trials in the Sniper chapter. I just can't remember exactly what they called them in that game. But, so you get a nice blend of real world elements along with fantasy, which makes for a really nice blend of storytelling. So I think you'll really enjoy the stories in this game. They're big, but they're quite interesting. Well, perhaps not for everybody. Okay, but let's move on to the next section now, shall we, guys? Okay, so now we're going to be talking about the gameplay. Gameplay is an important part of any RPG, that's for sure. This game has a really nice gameplay loop of exploring towns, cutscenes, and dialogue, and going through dungeons. Personally, I think there is a bit of an imbalance, like I mentioned before, in that there is a bit too much story and not too much gameplay. In terms of battles, I feel like there could be a slight improvement in that balance, but maybe that's just my personal taste. But gameplay wise, the game's really good. Like, there's no world map, from what I can tell, but what you do have access to is fast travel. And from what I can tell so far, you can fast travel pretty much anywhere. You can be inside of a dungeon, in the middle of town, and you can fast travel wherever you want to go. I think it getting uh, prerequisite is that you've been to that place before, but that's pretty standard for a lot of games. You've got to go to the area before you can travel there, obviously. Um, but yeah, it's really fun. So you get into this nice room, this nice room, and there are lots of cool things in this game, like extra stuff, optional stuff as well. So, an example of that being our costumes. So you can pick up various costumes along the way that will change the appearance of your characters. One thing I like is that they actually do, change their appearance, which is really cool. And the little character portraits as well. You get hair dyes to change the colour of your hair. You can get accessories that'll give you like cat ears or a cat tail, for example. So that's pretty cool. There's also cooking, so you can collect recipes, and once you've got your recipe, you can cook the item. And of course, some of the best healing in the game comes from cooking. Plus, it's fun to do. Um, I think in Trials of the Sky first chapter, you had to eat the item first, and then you can learn the recipe. But I've noticed in Daybreak it's different. So I'm not sure what the other game's like, but it's different in that Daybreak in that you have to actually get the recipe, and then once you've got the recipe, you can cook it. There's also a lot of collectible items too, like there are gifts in Charles V. Daybreak, which are one-off items you can buy, and you can give them to different characters to improve your relationship with them, so you'll get points in your relationship with them, which is pretty cool. There are also magazines you can buy, an example being Tyrell Times, which is basically like a newspaper, so you can buy them and you can actually go through and read them at any point too. Personally, I never bothered reading them, which I know sounds a bit lazy in hindsight, but I've actually got an idea for a video where I might go through and read those magazines. If you think that sounds interesting, let me know. Um, the game typically doesn't have a world map, but what it does have is interconnected areas. So, say you're in a town, you'll be in the town, you'd leave through one of the exits or wherever, and take you to another area, and then that area might say be a field area with monsters, and you'll uh, travel through that area and get to another area. But again, if you need to jump from place to place where it's not within walking distance, you can just fast travel. I personally think that you'll be racking up at least 100 hours in your average Trials game. At least that's what I was racking up because they're very, very long games. In terms of replayability, I think they're definitely worth playing again. I mean, any good game, if it's good enough, is worth coming back to. That said, there's not a lot of specific stuff. Like, I don't know if there's a new game plus or whatever to, give you those enticements to go back again. But there's certainly no reason you couldn't because a good game can always be revisited many times. Anyway, I think that wraps up the next section, so let's move on to the next show, guys. in video games only because okay, next we're going to be talking about some music. I'm not a huge music buff in that I like my music as much as the next person, but when it comes to game music, as long as the music's good and fits the mood, I'm happy. That said, with the Trials series, I am a little bit disappointed music-wise. The reason being, I find that they replay the same tracks over and over, and I know this is going to happen in a game because, you know, there are tracks for certain points in the game, and obviously there can't always be new music, so tracks are going to be replayed. But I find myself getting sick of the same tunes because they just seem to replay and replay, and there doesn't seem to be enough variety in the tunes that there are. I don't enjoy that much. But that's just me personally. Some people, other people might play this game and say it's got the best music in the world. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion on the music side of things. Anyway, now we're going to move on to the battle. So now we're going to be talking about the battle side of things. I'm sure as any gamer worth their salt knows that battles are a very important part in an RPG because you're going to be fighting so damn many of them. But this is where the game really shines, I think, because battles are fun as hell. As you can see here, in Azure and Zero, there is a grid system when you're fighting. In that, characters have a grid that shows a area of effect for movement that they can move around in, and an area of effect for spells. So, provided that the enemies are within that range of the spell will go ahead, and you can move as far as those blue squares allow. They've changed this for the newer ones. So these ones are older, as Zero from what I know. But in newer ones like Trials in the Sky, first chapter, Trials 3 Daybreak, they've changed the system in that instead of having a grid system, you can just move freely, but you still have an area of like limited movement in the form of a circle. So there will be, you know, they can't go everywhere. You're still restricted where you can go. But spells also have an area of effect. But it'll be like in the form of a shape. So you'll have like a square or a triangle sort of shape. And yeah, as long as the enemy fits within that shape, you can attack them. You've also got your typical commands like attack, magic, items, and defend and all that. But what you've also got is crafts and they're called S breaks. But anyway, magic in this game is used with EP, so EP is basically MP in this game. And you've also got CP, which is craft points. And your crafts are basically like your abilities, so each character has their own unique crafts, their own unique abilities. And those can be pretty cool. They can vary, of course. So you've got your typical attacks, you've got your buffs, your debuffs, things like that. And yeah, you've also got your S break. So S break uses SP, and what I can tell, SP builds up as you fight. So the more enemies you fight and the more enemies you kill, the more that'll go up. What I like to do is save all my SP to use my special attacks on the boss because if you use that S break, it'll take up a lot of SP. So I find it's good to save it up for those hard battles or those boss fights personally. Money works a little bit differently in this game in that instead of getting traditional money when you defeat an enemy or from a chest or what have you, instead you'll find that enemies drop separate, and you can use your separate mass to get money. So all you've got to do is go to your shop, select exchange, and exchange your separate mass, and you'll get mirror, which is the form of currency in this game. You can also upgrade your weapons and equipment. If you've got the item in the U material, you can also get U material plus. That allows you to use that item in order to upgrade your weapons, equipment, and accessories, which can be really cool. You've also got your typical shops where you can go buy armor and accessories. The magic is also pretty cool. So you've got your augments, and what you do is you buy various basically spells, and they cost separate instead of money to buy, which is important to know. and you equip them. You have different slots that you can equip them on, and based on um, what spell you put in what slot will affect what abilities you have. I'm not fully sure on how the system works myself, but I know it's fun as all hell. And you can get different ones that are like, say, give you extra hit points, give you more MP or EP, should I say? Ones that will give you spells of healing, ones that will give you extra strength or agility or accuracy, things like that. So it's really fun trying to customize them. So there are lots of fun elements to this game. Plus, there's a lot of different side quests available. One thing I really like about this game is quest markers. Personally, I would be absolutely lost without quest markers because knowing exactly where to go at any given time and who to talk to and where to go can be quite confusing. So it's really nice quality of life improvement, I think, where newer games have that. So how it works in this game is quite simple. You've got red, green, and blue quest markers. A red marker is for a story event, blue is for a sub event, and green is for like a optional quest or optional event. And of course, you don't have to do them all, but I recommend doing them to get the most rewards and the most out of the game. There are also other fun things like your cooking. The way cooking works in this game is well, actually varies from game to game, but in one game you would have to eat an item and then you would learn the recipe. In Trials Through Daybreak, which is what I'm playing now, cooking works a little bit differently. Instead, you get recipes here and there, and once you use the item, you learn the recipe. And of course, naturally, some of the best healing items in the game are cooked items, dishes, and what have you. So that's very fun to do. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do. You can also get your costumes, so you can find your costumes around, like I said before, to change your appearance and what have you. So they're very fun. One thing I've noticed is all the games have their own sort of system. Like in Trials Through Daybreak, you have I think they call 4 SPGs, which are basically quests because you're a spriggan, so you're not a bracer and you're not the police. You do the jobs that are sort of in a grey between area. So people go to you and request a job, and you do that job. And all of them seem to have a like in Trials of the Sky First Chapter, you're a bracer, so you would get bracer jobs. And in another one, I think you're a detective, so you get jobs from them. But they all seem to follow that same sort of format where you get jobs. But another way you can get money I've forgotten about is when you complete jobs, you will always get a fee of €1 for that. So that's a fun little thing. But yeah, gameplay is really, really fun. I think you'll find yourself getting into a very comfortable rhythm with this. Anyway, in conclusion, if you haven't yet played the Trails series, I highly recommend it because I think it's a whole lot of fun. Hopefully this video has convinced you to give it a go if you haven't already. But yeah, I'm going to wrap that up for now, I believe. I think I've got all my thoughts out there. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hoping to do more in the Games of Love and Wife series. So look forward to that in the future. Quick note, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, all that good stuff. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and X, so consider joining me on those to keep up to date with all the channel news. Also, the majority of people who watch my videos, 99% actually aren't actually subscribed to the channel, so if that's you, what are you doing? Please consider hitting that sub button. It's free, only takes a minute, you'll never miss a video that way. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up now, guys. I've been your host, the RPGgoddess Gamer. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Thank you all so much for watching. Love you all, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.